In this video, I'd like to make a brief introduction into the topic of Spanish articles, or los artículos, and show you that they're equally important in Spanish as they are in English, however they have a lot of differences. But one thing that they do have in common is the fact that we can divide articles into two groups, indefinite articles and definite articles, or in Spanish, artículos indeterminados y artículos determinados. So let's take a look at the definite articles first. In the English language, a definite article would be the or the. And you would use this sort of article when you're referring to objects that you further define or that are somehow specified. For example, in a sentence, I gave my brother the book he wanted. Okay, so you say the book he wanted, so you specify that particular book. And the Spanish equivalent of the would be el or la, or we can also have a plural form los or las. But in this video, I'd like to focus on the singular form because I have a video on plural coming very soon. So I won't really be going into the cases of when to use a definite article, when to use an indefinite article in Spanish, and there will be a future video on it in some more advanced grammar section. But what I want you to take from this video is, okay, why do we have just one definite article in English and why do we have two definite articles in Spanish? Well, the reason is pretty simple. In Spanish, you differentiate between genders of nouns. So not only is a woman seen as a feminine and a man seen as a masculine, but also ordinary objects like glass, table, book. All of these things have a gender in the Spanish language, and by the way, in many other European languages, and probably also world languages. So this might be a bit shocking to you if you never heard of this fact before, and it's something that you have to get used to in the English language, that every single thing has a gender. And based upon the gender, you connect it with either el or la. So el is used for things or for objects or for nouns that are seen as male, and la is used for objects or things or nouns which are seen as female. And again, if you want some more detailed guidelines into how to differentiate what is a male noun and what is a female noun, because it doesn't always make sense for a normal human mind, then as I've said, go to some future videos, to some more advanced grammar. In this video, I would just like to encourage you that once we'll start doing vocab videos, pay attention to the articles, because it's not, in English, if you're learning new vocab, you don't learn it with an article. You don't say the book, the table, the something, because it's always the same article. But in the Spanish language, you should learn the vocab words with the article in order to distinguish whether it's a male or a female. And the most basic guideline that is not always true, it has a lot of exceptions, but it will help you during your first steps in studying Spanish, is that if you have a word that ends with an O, it is usually a male. Usually male, so it will usually go with the el article. If you have something ending with an A, it will usually be taken as a female or perceived as female gender, therefore it will go with the la article. So for example, el libro, which means a book or the book, this was the noun that I used in the English language. So el libro ends with an O, that is why we use el as the definite article. And for a female word, for example, la cama, which means a bed or the bed, it ends with an A, we use a la with it. Once more, this is not true for all Spanish words, but it's the first guideline that you might find useful. So a quick recap. In the Spanish language, we know two definite articles, el and la, or in the plural form, los and las. And the way that we connect these definite articles to words is based upon their gender. There are many rules and many laws about defining genders. If you want to know them, fast forward into some future videos. The most basic one that you can remember is if it ends with an O, it's a male, we use el. If it ends with an A, it's a female, we use la. Okay, so that was all about the definite articles. And now let's move on to the indefinite article, which in the English language is a, or in some cases, en. And this is the type of article that you would use in the English language if you're not really specifying the object that you're talking about. So if I were to come back to the example sentence that I had, I could say, I gave my brother a book, which means I gave him some book, and I don't specify what sort of book it was. In English, you use the indefinite articles quite frequently, and I would say that in Spanish they're not as frequent, but of course they have their, Spanish versions. So an indefinite article for a male object would be un, and for a female object, una, and for the plurals, unos and unas. So if I were to come back to the example sentence I gave you, I gave my brother a book, the Spanish version would be di un libro a mi hermano. Un libro, because it's a male object and it's an unspecified object, so un. I would do the same thing with una if I were talking about a feminine object. Okay, so that is it about articles. Just a quick recap. Articles are equally important in both the English and the Spanish language, and we can divide articles in both of these languages into two groups: definite articles and indefinite articles. While the uses are kind of similar in both of these languages, there are some exceptions or some special things, but the most important thing or the most important difference between the articles in English and in Spanish is that while in English you only differentiate between their definiteness, in Spanish, besides their definiteness, you also need to differentiate between their gender. So it's either el or la, or if it's something indefinite, it's un or una. That's it. Thank you.